Redo You, the podcast that teaches you tools and strategies so you can build the confidence to rediscover and reinvent yourself. With me, Emma Hull, your favorite life coach. Each week, I'll introduce a concept that you can implement right away so you can live your most authentic life. Let's get started. I've been craving a digital detox for some time now, but just haven't made the time to do it for myself. Each July, I have the honor of leading an off-grid retreat up in the Yukon. And so I decided that this year I would go offline for the duration of the retreat. I started pulling back from technology gradually before I left. So on Friday, I set my out of office. I let people know that I was going to be offline for a week, gave them emergency contacts, things like that. I made an intentional effort to use less social media over the weekend. And while I was visiting a friend en route, I had my phone face down, on silent, didn't pay any attention to it. So by the time I arrived in Dawson City, I was already weaning myself off technology. I was pretty excited to put my phone on airplane mode when I got on that final flight out to Heart Lake. It was interesting because even though I was out in the middle of nowhere, there is Starlink at the lodge, but I chose not to connect to it. But even when I was not near the lodge, I'd catch myself pulling out my phone and opening up my email app. And of course, the message would come up saying you need to enable Wi-Fi. And that would remind me, no, we're offline. I caught myself several times trying to go onto social media or even dating apps. And of course, I was thinking about my loved ones. I was worried about the wildfires and what was going on and thinking about what's going on in current events. But by the Wednesday, I'd stopped those. They were just reflexes, impulses of picking up my phone and opening my email. I'd stopped doing that. And really, I was just using my phone as a camera. And I've even noticed that I was taking less pictures than usual because I just wasn't thinking about my phone. I was enjoying being in the moment. By the time I got back to Dawson City on the Friday, I really didn't want to go online. And so I thought as intentionally as I had about how I would go offline, about how am I going to go back online? And I came up with a strategy. I thought about what have I been enjoying about being offline and what am I concerned about going back online. And I really noticed that the things that I'd been enjoying was not feeling like I had to respond right away, not getting stressed out by those notifications. Even those little red dots cause me anxiety sometimes. Things that I was worried about was finding a whole inbox full of emails to overwhelm me. Also, finding the time to get back to all the messages and feeling like when people saw that I was online, that I'd have to get back to them right away. And of course, I was worried about finding out what had happened with the wildfires. So I developed my strategy on Saturday morning. I allowed myself 10 minutes of watching the news while I was packing, just keeping it to those headlines so that I couldn't get sucked into too much drama and just giving myself a little bit of exposure of what was going on. And then after I was done, I went out for a walk. Walking is a great way to calm your central nervous system. And I spent the rest of the day offline until I got to the airport, and I had an hour at the airport. So I decided that in that window, I would check my messages, not my email, my messages. But what I did before turning off that airplane mode was I went in and I turned off all of my notifications so I wouldn't be bombarded with a whole bunch of vibrations and beeps and red dots. And then I went on and I read my messages, not responded to them, simply read them. And then, of course, I was back on a plane, so went offline again. And once I got to Whitehorse and had settled into my hotel, I went out for a walk, and I used that time to respond to some of the messages that I'd received. I didn't go back on my email until I was actually back home and on my computer, and I'd set aside a couple of hours so that I could take my time going through my emails one at a time in an organized fashion. I really noticed the benefits of doing this extended digital detox. I feel much calmer, much more rested. I've been experiencing overwhelm and anxiety, and so I really noticed that that's gone away, and I no longer feel like I have to respond right away. I'll hear a notification go off on my phone and I don't even go to grab it. Or sometimes I might read a message and then I don't reply to it right away. I take my time to reply. It's also given me the freedom to not feel like I have to reach for my phone first thing in the morning, be checking it last thing at night. And what I'm loving is that when I take my lunch breaks, I go outside and have my lunch and I leave my phone on my desk. So I'm definitely feeling free and calm. Now, of course, doing a whole week probably sounds like a lot, but I do encourage you to think about how you could reduce the amount of time that you're spending on technology in your life and what benefits you might get from that. And I have a digital detox guide where I'll walk you step by step through how you can create your unique digital detox that works for you in your life. Go over to my website, lifeuntethered.com/detox, and you can download your free guide there, and I'll walk you through how to reduce technology in your life so that you can experience that same beautiful calm and rest that I've been enjoying after my digital detox.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Redo You podcast. Remember to subscribe, rate, and review, and tell a friend, because together we rise even higher. See you next Friday.